Okay, so let's start getting into object manipulation. One quick thing I'm going to cover, and that is the 3D cursor. In our earlier videos we talked about these options here. Now all these options, active element, median point, individual origins, bounding box center, those are all selection related options. The one wild card is 3D cursor, which is not necessarily selection oriented, other than the fact that you have to have something selected in order for it to work. So, but in these other options, for example, if I choose active element, the manipulator moves to the last thing selected, right? So I could have these three selected and then manipulate around the last one like that, right? Oops, that one didn't select, right? So if those three were selected, right? Now I'm rotating with R, if you saw that pop up. I'll cover that later. Alright, so now so the 3D cursor is different in that you select something and then you use this snapping menu, and that's Shift S, which you will use a lot. So Shift S on the keyboard and you get all these options. Alright, and then you choose cursor to selected as the one we want right now. And then now this cursor is up there where the light is. So notice if I select this, we're set to active element. Let's change it back to 3D cursor. And now the manipulator jumps up there. That's where it is. So that's one thing I just wanted to cover. Make sure and get that out of the way. So the 3D cursor comes into play mostly when you want to snap it to something, and it can come into play in other ways, but for the most part that's how I find myself using it. Okay, and then another situation I might use it is if I'm in an orthographic view. I clicked 1 and 5 on the keyboard to get there. I can just put this anywhere I want, you know. I want to just set it right there and then move it. You know, sometimes it helps to be visual. There's other programs like Maya where you can use the middle mouse button to drag something that's off screen, like if the center is over here and you want to grab this, you know. For me it's kind of cool also to be able to just click right there with the left mouse button. So that again is the 3D cursor, going into more details there. There's another thing I want to cover before we get heavy into manipulating, and it's something you probably saw but I never explained, but I did talk about it in an earlier video, and that is I talked about how in user preferences you go here and under editing there is release confirms. Okay, so I mentioned that if you have that off and you drag something and you let go with the mouse button, it's still stuck to your mouse. Okay, so I'm going to right click to cancel that. So that's right click to cancel. But now if you notice, if I go back to user preferences and I turn it on, so release confirms, then it does another thing. I'm going to save that, close this. Right, if I drag it with the right mouse button and let go, it stays there. Okay, so and remember I mentioned that there are some cases where that isn't the case, and the next thing we're going to get into is exactly that. And this will be all over the interface also. It's fairly consistent. So when I'm using the keyboard shortcuts for manipulating, those are G for move, R for rotate, and S for scale. So it's G grab, R rotate, and S scale. So you'll use those a lot. But you'll notice when you do that, if I grab the camera and I hit G, it becomes stuck to my keyboard, to my mouse, which in this case actually I like, especially for rotating. So if I select the light and R for rotate, there's that little line that's going towards the center where the cursor is, because that's how we have it set. So this is the case, and it's very consistent in the interface as well. So that's something to keep in mind, and we'll go over more details in the next video.